if we fail to manage the stress and the thoughts and the beliefs that keep coming up in this freaking cranium, we're going to continue to be stressed. We're going to continue to be sick. We're going to continue to be all these things. Because one of the things I really appreciate what they were talking about, again, I say emotions have no logic, but memories get stored in all kind of crazy ways.
Mm-hmm.
Now the brain, because the memories are stored all funky funks, the brain is going to be like, oh, you got a situation? Let me make up a story about it. We got a storyteller in our brain that adds to the stress, especially when we don't monitor and manage our thoughts or know what's going on.
Boom.
And away we go. What up, B?
What's going on? How's your morning?
Cranky pants. Captain
I noticed that. Man, Captain Killjoy over here.
Killjoy.
Killing all the fun.
Taking it, yo, don't come around me right now because you know what I'll do? Like, suck all the fun out, all the atmosphere. I will suck the fun out of it right now, bro.
We all have those days, man.
Yeah, listen, thank goodness I most likely won't be like this in an hour. So I'm good. I'll just sit with it. I probably won't be after, listen, man, when you and I get together, I most likely will be out of this in 5 minutes, if that.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Exactly. Bro, welcome to this morning. Welcome to this More Than Black or White Health podcast. We are your hosts. I am Paul. I'm an author, co-creator of the More Than Black or White Health podcast, yoga instructor, and Captain Huff and Puff today. And with my co-host, Brian.
I'm Brian. I bring the sunshine to Paul, so we can get him out of bad moods, even him out a little bit. Entrepreneur, investor, world traveler, student of the universe. Here I am. Here we are. Here we are.
Base to base. I think.
What are we bringing? What are we bringing to the listeners today, Paul?
Stress. I think this is one of the reasons I'm Captain Huff and Puff. So I'm really excited that we get to talk about this episode.
So you can relate.
Huh?
You can relate.
Big time. Big time. But listen, so I'm really excited with this because for the listeners, if this is your first time here, welcome. If this is you're returning, welcome back. Just so you have a heads up, we are going to talk about stress, and what this podcast is about is supporting you and being an advocate for your health and well-being. So whether you're on medications, you're experiencing some depression, anxiety, whatever it is, we're saying we're medical professionals, and with our experience, we're here to share what we're learning and what we've experienced to support you in having tip-top health and well-being. And that's one of the reasons why I was really excited for us to talk about stress today. As B will tell you, I have me and Stress do that dance, boy. We do the samba. And stress has had a major impact on my life. Like, for example, you may not be able to see, but like one of the things here, this sty that I got, I'm a big metaphysical person. So when I look up this metaphysical significance of a sty, it's anger, seeing things from an angry way. And I sent a documentary to Brian to watch that we could talk about. And it's the stress documentary. It's on YouTube. It's by the One Research Foundation. So Brian and I are going to talk and chop it up a little bit about this. And I'm excited to talk about this. But before I do that, B, like what's your thought on this? What's the first thought you have on stress, like as far as like health and collective, man?
It's everything. It sounds cliche, but like my background's a holistic health practitioner.
Yeah.
And the first thing they teach you is like, if somebody comes to you, like, you're a trainer, I'm a trainer. People come to you, they want three things most of the time. They want to lose weight, they want to drop body fat, and they want to have more energy. Or maybe four would be like, they have aches and pains they want to get out of. Those are like the top four, right?
Right. There's
not a diet, there's not an exercise program, there's not a rehab solution as far as like, strengthen this, stretch this, that's going to get you out of that pain or change your body composition or give you more energy. without controlling the stresses in your life.
Yeah.
And it's so tough. Like people come to me like, like their tone, say they're in, for example, their tone in their arms, but like, oh, I just can't get rid of this belly. There's no tone in there. And then you start talking about their stress. I'm like, oh, like, what's some of the stressful things going on in your life? Husband, wife, money, their work is just beating them up. Their boss is beating them up. Their kids are giving them, I feel like they never want to address that problem. They're always looking for simple solutions. Hey, just tell me what to eat. Just tell me what exercise to do. And they think it's gonna happen. So until you address those stressful things in your life head on, you're never going to get any of those goals that you come and see a fitness professional or a rehab professional or a physical therapy professional. So when I think of stress, I think it's the underlying, it's the foundation of everything that you want out of life, but it's the one thing that's holding you back. So it's like we talked about in the past. It's shadow work, right?
Yeah. It really, man, listen, yes, thank you for that, man, because it's one of the components that's so evident everywhere, yet people fail to acknowledge its contribution to our health and well-being, bro. I'm fascinated with this. And listen, bless up to the one, it is a One Research Institute that did this. I was hooked in it when they started talking about how stress impacts the digestion system. And it's interesting, B, because when I did the detox, one of the things that was interesting, especially when my digestion was running smoothly, my blood pressure was down. And I recognized like when I'm stressed, my bowels, my digestion system is very shaky, rocky, bro.
Yeah.
And that contributes and they talked about this in the documentary, how our digestion, because of, and we're going to talk a little bit about, I don't know what you got in notes, but like, I want to talk a little bit about the brain science that they talked to. But when they were talking about how stress and the perception of stress, right? The perception of stress will bind your your belly and your ass up. And it's one of the things like it. I remember, fear of saying any names, someone that was that had been in my life for a while. Whenever they would get stressed, they would have stomach issues. And I know when they were stressed because I'm like, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom. Oh, Joe, you stressed. What's up? You want to talk about it? No. Okay. But
I can relate to that, man. Like I remember, it's funny. I'm just thinking about it now, but like when I was going to school, like my childhood, like I grew up at I just didn't have confidence in myself. I was like, I told you the story. I was like a freshman. I was like 85 pounds. I was 5'1", acne. The haircut of I had the Joe Dirt mullet thing going on. And I didn't feel good about myself. Like I tried so hard to fit in with people, and I would just do like stupid shit, and I would get in a lot of trouble. Girls weren't really attracted to me at that time, or at least the girls I wanted weren't attracted to me at that time. But and then I started around 13, 14. I mean, I also contribute to my environment at home a little bit. And I also contribute to a little bit of the food I was eating, but I started having really IBS issues, and that stayed with me for about maybe 10 or 12 years. And until I became more confident in myself, in my own skin, and started dabbling into psychedelics and getting to the root cause of the problem, that's when everything went away. Like I would work out when I was younger, and I would be lean, I'd be vascular, but my stomach was always looked like I had 30% belly fat in my stomach. And as I started getting more confident in myself, that's when I started getting leaner in my core. I could start seeing my abs more and everything like that. So definitely, just from a personal experience, not changing anything in my exercise or changing anything in my nutrition, just becoming more confident in myself in a humble way, not in a pride way or a cocky way. I just started healing my gut more. And that when I started healing the gut more on an aesthetic look, I started looking better than I did before.
It's wild, man, because as you're saying that, I remember what they were talking about when they were originally how people were talking about how the body and mind were separate. And then really it's the same, because if I'm working on something physically, right, and it's going to impact how I feel about myself mentally, and vice versa. And if I start changing Oh yeah, what was, I forget how, I'm failing to remember how they shared it. But basically it was like what you're saying, like as soon as things started to change, then all of a sudden the body started shifting, like, oh Chuck, then the mind, the confidence. And I think that's really important that you said that, man, because like they kept talking a lot about the connection between stress and emotions and even psychological states, right? Like you said, like confidence. Damn, well, if I fail to be confident, then oh shoot, then like I'm gonna have this emotion of I'm shy or I'm like shame or guilt or like fear. Then all of a sudden, it's like certain things can activate. So I appreciate when you just said, "Hey, like when I got into the medicines and getting to the root of it," right? Because that's a lot of what they talk about. Like one of the things that they're highlighting. Good plug for the NET or the NEC. I think they did right. The NEC. There's NET, which is a neuro emotional technique, but they talk about in the video the neural emotional complex. So
Mm-hmm.
the connection between, oh, well, I'm thinking this, and then it's, or I see it, I'm processing something. I see something, like I see some Bazooka Joe gum, and now all of a sudden it activates an emotion of when my bike got stolen when I was
Yeah.
7.
It's like emotion stuck in the body, right? That's the
Stuck in
NEC.
the body, bro. And this thing, you know what? God, they dropped so many gems. May I share?
Go do it, man. Might as well. We're on a podcast.
I might as well. Oh, that's what we're doing. Oh, I thought it was in the comment. But look, so one of the things that got me B right was one of them said the emotional wounds live in a part of the brain where there is no sense of time. And I was like, oh shit. So that when he said that, everything started clicking for me because I'm like, oh, that's one of the reasons why people can get re-triggered easily.
Mm-hmm.
Emotion strong enough, the brain fails to know if that joke was when you were 7 or yesterday. It's gonna bring up that same shit, bro. Freaking fascinating. And I'm like, that will
Yeah,
die.
we all have that. We all get triggered. There's a couple times like I'm a type of person that when big things happen, I'm like, it's all good. Little things set me off. It was funny because I was listening to Bill Burr the other day,
Oh,
and he was on the show, and he's like, they're asking like, hey, how do you handle the stress from the fire that's going on now in L.A.? He's like, it's funny because like if anybody doesn't know Bill Burr, he gets very easily triggered a lot. So he's like, it's funny. It's like when like big things are happening, just say my house is on fire, I'm calm. I'm like, all right, kids, let's pack your stuff, honey, get in the car. It's like, we'll put in your mother's house. We'll go there. We'll hang out for a little bit. Just grab a couple things. We'll get out. He's like, if I'm waking up in the morning and I put toast in the toaster and it's burnt, I flip the fuck out. I'm like, who's setting the toaster too high? Then he started talking a little bit. It's like, it goes back to my childhood for whatever reason. It's something like little things like that. So for me, it's like, yeah, I get more annoyed with the little things than big things. And like then I kind of sit there and after a couple minutes, I kind of like reflect a little bit, like, what the hell happened? Like to me in my childhood, or that triggered me like that. I gotta sit there and I think about it, and I'm laughing about it, but it's
right.
true.
It's really interesting that we talk about this, man. Because I think that's like an amygdala hijack. It's like
Sure.
something, that small thing, and I'm doing my best to recall what I heard in that documentary, because I remember someone said it's like one thing puts an extra hair on top and then kaboom.
Yeah.
Right? It's amazing. This is the type of thing that happens on a regular basis, and because we take in so much. And this is a thing, especially in relation to stress. If you're someone that, oh my goodness, you have a lot of things going on in your life, you're more likely to get consumed by stress because there's so many things coming at you, right? You may be eating like shit, whole bunch of coffee with some sugar, social media, if you have a job, if you have responsibilities. Bro, so much stuff is coming out. So like how you and Bill Burr do, man. Like that thing, like who left the cap of the toothpaste? You know what I mean? Like the little stuff. It's like the straw that broke the camel's back, right?
Yeah.
It's a psychological thing. Like there's something that's like bubbling, and then one little freaking droplet, bloop, bow, and it comes back to the bubble. Bloop. You like that? You like that example?
I like the bloop. I like the
bloop.
bloops.
The sound is fresh, baby. But Pete, what's up? Like some of the things like she mentioned that I knew you would like is what I just mentioned: the overload of the processed food, sugar, news. Man, like when you hear that, especially like from your background, man, how like man, talk to the people about how much this is important or how much this impacts our stress level.
Oh my God. It's such a broad question. I don't even know where to like to begin. Like
Process.
food. Yeah, let's go like food. Our food supply is shit. It is absolute shit. If you would take our food supply and you would send it to other countries, there would be 30 countries that would consider our food to be illegal. It's poison. It's poison. You really got to know what you're eating. And a lot of today, like we've talked about this before, too many people are counting calories and not counting chemicals in your body or chemicals that you're putting in your body and or putting on your body, right? With lotions and products and toothpastes and deodorants and all this other stuff. And it's super important that if you're like kind of take a step back, like everyone has a phone. You can easily educate yourself by looking at things on your phone. So what I mean by that is if you're in a situation where you're not happy with the way you're stressed out or you're not losing weight or your energy's low or you're always in a bad mood, I would look at the food first that you're putting in your body. That's a stress that's on your life. Food, nutrition, stress is probably one of the biggest stresses. And then look at like the back of the ingredients. Educate yourself on the chemicals that are on the labels that you're putting in your body. Educate yourself on what pasteurized milk is. And like, because bread, it's not even real bread. It's a bunch of chemicals that makes it look like bread. Our bread, if you put it in other countries, they would look at me like, there's no ingredients in that bread. You're just breaking down nutrients in your body. Yeah. So there's so much stuff. Pasteurized orange juices, like the stuff that we feed our kids, cereals, Pop-Tarts. Like it goes on, man. Like
well, the thing too is like I would like for us to relate it to the crowd is when we're taking in all these processed foods, it stops up our gut function.
Sure.
So now there's these wastes that contribute in your gut. And if your food is jammed up and you're using this to help you function or nourish yourself, your whole processes are going to be off. So Absolutely. It's going to be easy, right? So it's going to be easier for you to get stressed.
Sure.
You're going to fail to digest. And that's what one of the things they said. Like if we're feeling like if we fail to digest our foods, chances are we're failing to digest our thoughts. Okay. So this again contributes to a stressor in the body, right? We're talking about the psychological stress, but the taxing on your digestive system to try to process the foolishness that's happening in your body or that you may be putting in your body is creating a heightened level of stress for you if that's what you're experiencing right now.
Yeah, I think it was like anytime you put something in your body that is not recognized by Mother Nature or something that's synthetic, it slows everything down. Thinking of it as like being at the airport and you have your bags and the person's up there, phone, wallet, keys, make sure to check your pockets, coins, get them out of your bag, put them in the bin, laptops out of your bag, put them in the bin. And you always get that one idiot that was on their phone, wasn't paying attention, and they put their laptop in their bag, their keys are still in their pocket, and then they go through and the alarm goes off. And now everyone's got to wait because this person wasn't paying attention. That's basically what's going on with the transit time in your gut. When food going through, your basically have somebody like a TSA agent be like, all right, you can go through. They can be like, what the hell is a fucking Pop-Tart? All right, hold up, we're going to stop this. And everything starts getting backed up in there. And then when everything starts getting backed up, you start creating more toxins in your body. That toxins go into your fat. And as your body becomes more toxic, you naturally are just bringing down your energy. You're everything you possibly do is either creating energy or it's lowering your energy. Energy never dies. I shouldn't say create, but you're either bringing it up or you're bringing it down.
Bro. Yep.
So
frequency, bro.
When you start bringing it down, it's going to be very easy for your body to get triggered by any kind of stressful situation. And that's the problem. Like, everyone handles stress differently. A healthy person, they can handle stress a lot different than somebody that's, 30-40% body fat and eating Big Macs, 2 or 3 times a week and not working out.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Huge difference. I think and this is so important when managing stress, to have some sort of outlet, right? So whether that's like your like a meditation, a stillness or mindfulness or whatever, working out, going for a walk, doing push-ups, doing pull-ups, doing something to like move your body, move your energy, right? Energy, emotion. Like, we got to be able to move. Even like just moving helps to move things in the gut, man.
Yeah, one thing that you said was very interesting. Like, I mean, I always knew it, but it's good to kind of hear back about it, is your outlet should be your creativity. And when you don't express yourself, that suppression will eventually express itself into some kind of disease, cancer, tumor, and anything like that. Yes. So
yes,
I think it's super important. And this can kind of go back into the whole spiritual realm, like we talked about in the past. Like, everyone has their Dharma, right? Everyone is here to perform a certain tasks based on your uniqueness as an individual. So when you don't express yourself, it's almost like, I guess an analogy would be like, all right, your body's like, your soul's like, all right, fuck this. Like, this person is never going to listen to us. Let's create this disease. Let's go back up into, heaven or whatever you believe in. Let's kind of work on a little why you're not doing this, and let's try it again in the next life. So, bro, it's basically like they've done tons of research. People that live fulfilling lives, live unique lives, live lives that they take chances because they just feel like they're listening to their intuition. They live a lot longer than people that are just like, all right, you got to go to school, you got to get this job, you got to move up the corporate ladder, you got to retire at 65. Then, the average age now of death in America, I think, is 76. So you basically fuck your ass your whole life living out somebody else's dream to have an extra like 9 to 10 years to do whatever you want while you're on 6 or 7 different medications. That's not a life.
That's no life, bro. But that's the life that we've been told.
Yeah.
No, that's the conditioning. It's interesting, man, with the life that, or what we've been told, and it brings up for me this part of the documentary. They were talking about how what was it? Memories and emotions have no logic, and when I think about the stories, right? Like, hey, I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to do this. There was something in our brain that got locked in. Like, this is who we are. This is what we do. Mm-hmm. And we get locked in and we get stressed out because we fail to live up to a certain standard, right? But what I really appreciate about how they brought it, and how you and I love science piece, is how they looked at like the neural connection between like an emotion and like how it was processed. Like, it was very interesting how they did it. They like looked at the emotion, and then like there was something that they did to kind of like get them to think about it differently. And then almost by happenstance, they found that by disconnecting or reconnecting the emotion and the neuron, they were able to address a lot of different pains in the body.
Yeah.
A lot of states.
Yeah, I think they gave that. Do you remember any examples that they were giving?
I remember there was an example of a woman that was in an accident, and she had like he was doing like dang. He asked her like what she felt in the accident, and she said fear. And he I'm trying to remember what he did, but she said fear, and then he was like, he said, okay, well, how does that feel? And it was like when she identified the emotion, her neck felt better.
Yeah.
He was like, and she was like, oh, it feels good. And he was like, oh, well, I didn't mean it. Like he was saying to the camera, he was like, I wasn't referring to her neck, I was referring to the fear.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, oh, well, okay, that's good. And how does the fear feel? She was like, oh, actually, I feel good.
Yeah. That's interesting. I like that one too, because when I went through the holistic path, trying to, educate myself earlier on in my life, one
Yeah.
of the things we'd always ask is, when I just say you're one of my patients, I'd be like, what's the top 5 most stressful things that ever happened to you in your life? And I want you to think about them. So maybe when you were like 3 years old, you got into a car accident. Maybe, you lost your job when you were, in your 30s, whatever it is. And then I would kind of make that distinction. Because, all right. So basically, anger, for example, it affects the liver, right? It
Yeah.
also affects 3 segments in your thoracic spine. So some people that have liver issues, just say their liver enzymes are off, I would look at the anger and I would go bring that anger back to one of those top 5 things that happened in their lifestyle. Maybe it was a divorce, or top 5 things that happened that were stressful in their life. Maybe it was divorce. Maybe it was, their ex cheated on them, whatever it was, or their boss did something. And you try to, with that emotion, and they would see the thoracic spine would start feeling better. Their liver enzymes would increase in a positive way. So I thought that was super fascinating. So having the most stressful situations in your life, figure out what emotion that works with the liver or works with the organ, and then those organs obviously have a direct organs produce hormones, and then every single organ is connected to a vertebrae in there. So it all connects. It's wild, but it's like, oh, I just wish our medical system would be more efficient. Like, how many times we looked at people like, that have like, whatever, liver, kidney, and everything like that, and they don't address the stress that's going on in the body, or the food that you're putting in it, or it's just like everyone's a specialist, but nobody knows anything.
Nobody knows anything. But that's the problem, right? Because everybody's a specialist rather than looking, and no one's talking.
Yeah.
Like,
Then you get some like mouth breathers. I try to I had this one guy one time, and he's like, he brought his wife in, and his wife was having trouble losing weight no matter what he did. And a lot of the reason wind up being because of the husband. The husband was overbearing, all this other stuff. So we finally got her losing weight. And he's like, what are you doing and everything like that. I was like, well, that's between your wife and I. And if she wants to tell you, she can tell you.
Yeah.
God was the dick. So basically he pressured the wife to tell him what was happening. So he came back into me. He was like, he was upset. He's like, how dare you talk about our relationship and everything like this? I'm like, listen, you came to me because you wanted her to fix. We wanted to fix this problem, right? And he goes, yeah, he wasn't happy. But I was like, she's not happy because what you're doing to her in her life. Right. And he's like, are you a doctor? It's like, how do you know all this stuff? Where'd you go to doctor school? I was like, the reason I know all this stuff is because I'm not a doctor.
Right. Exactly. Isn't that wild how that's people's first thing when they can't handle it? Are you a doctor?
Yeah. Like, the reason I know all this stuff and I can fix people, or I can help people more efficiently, is because I'm not a doctor. If I wanted, I don't want to say anything bad about doctors, because we all need them for certain things. But yeah, that's the topic. I'll keep my mouth shut on that one. But
no, you're
not. Yeah. When people don't like an answer, if they don't agree with you, that's the first thing. That's the first thing they go at.
Yeah, so, man. And this is a situation where you got to the root of it.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Like people, this is like, I think like as we're talking about this, I'm realizing why I've wanted to talk about this for so long, because I think stress contributes to the majority of our health and well-being issues. It does. I mean, like, listen, people and B, one of the things though is that people fail to know or really fail to even learn how to manage the stress, their specific stress. And like I've had this, like, man, listen, I like speaking from my experience, but I've been in a situation with my former wife, and like there's times like I won't even get into like the thoughts I've had towards her, but like man, like we just fail to get along. And I just it stressed me out for so many years, bro. It wasn't until recently I finally was just like, yo, I want to live, man. I'm messing with you. My blood pressure's through the roof. It's gonna be harder for me to get off meds. I gotta cut you out. Now, people be like, oh my goodness, how could you do that? Because it's your mother, your kids. Shut up. My life is more important because I want to live. Obviously, if something's stressing you out, they don't care. Like that component really doesn't care about you.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you're not caring about yourself. What it really comes down to.
Respect for yourself. Self-respect.
Bruh. Necessary. Because listen, they said something. If we fail to manage the stress and the thoughts and the beliefs that keep coming up in this freaking cranium, we're going to continue to be stressed. We're going to continue to be sick. We're going to continue to be all these things. Because one of the things I really appreciate what they were talking about, again, I say emotions have no logic, but memories get stored in all kind of crazy ways.
Mm-hmm.
Now the brain, because the memories are stored all funky funks, the brain is going to be like, oh, you got a situation? Let me make up a story about it. We got a storyteller in our brain that adds to the stress, especially when we don't monitor and manage our thoughts or know what's going on, or like address some shit that happened back when you were 7. Like, you know what? I'm going to let go of the fact that my bike was stolen. I'm doing this on the podcast, B. I'm letting it go. But bro, this is like a very important thing, man, because people hold and people create stories, and add to that the fact that we eat like shit, so our belly fails to process, messes up our systems. Then you're adding in like all this data that we take in that contributes to the stories.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Bro.
What are some of the techniques that you do to kind of de-stress over the years? Like, for example, like me, I don't watch the news.
No.
How do you watch the news? There's certain people that I follow, like the Joe Rogans, people in the financial sector that are very unbiased. There's, I belong to an EO group, entrepreneurs organization, and they kind of fill me in on certain things. But I don't watch Fox, CNN. That's like the National Enquirer. It's like it's such bullshit. It's like when you understand that there's like 5 or 6 major corporations that control all the media. It's basically a story that they want you to hear. And you know what it is? It's like people are like, oh, it's super important to know what's going on in the world and blah 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 blah. Maybe, okay, I agree, but I'm not going to get that information from Fox, CNN, MSNBC, because I know I'm only getting the tip of the iceberg. I'd rather learn it from other outside sources. So I just don't have, I'm so busy working on myself and trying to improve my lifestyle and my family's well-being. I don't have time to sit there, nor do I want to have the time to sit there and diagnose everything that's going to happen. Just say Fox was like, oh, we're doing this. You got to peel so many layers, and how do you know what layer that is? So I try to find things that, okay, it's gonna work with me. It's gonna kind of help me. And if I can't control it, what am I gonna do? Everyone's like, like for example, like I hate to say it, like the fires out in LA, like I feel horrible for the student. I mean, no one deserves to lose their house, but it's like all over the news. And I'm like in Jersey, yeah, I'll donate some money, whatever, like that. I'll help out a little bit. But like, what do you want me to do?
Right.
people are like, aren't you paying attention to it? I'm like, I'm 3,000 miles away. Like, what do you want me to do? Control the controllables, you know?
Right.
So I don't need to watch the news and watch people crying because their house gets lost. So I'm like, what kind of stress does that do to me?
Bruh. And you said, bruh, you just said two key things right there. First, control the controllables. And what you see on TV, right? What we see on TV is emotions, emotional activations and triggers. And listen, bless up to my man John Tompkins, you stubborn old hoot. He was the one that really put me onto this, right? Because I never liked watching the news. I was like, this is a whole bunch of bullshit. This is like some PR campaigns, man, with the advertising. But anyway, dude, what they do in the news is like what you said, like they'll show somebody crying. I don't know what I'm gonna do in my house. Usually it's like some person that is over emotional. Like, right, listen, if you watch the news, most of the time they're gonna interview somebody that's either overly emotional or super calm.
Yeah.
And they're gonna interview someone that's gonna support a narrative. Even like with all the stuff that's going on overseas, man, I'm like, is that what's really happening over there? Now, listen, of course, there's some terrible things that are happening. Yes, I will acknowledge that. And I will also acknowledge the fact that a lot of these stations will play that shit up to get ratings, to get you freaking emotional, and to stress you out, to act on whatever agenda or propaganda they're trying to push down your throat. Okay?
Yeah. I've traveled to so many countries, and a lot of these countries are like level 3, level 4 warning, like don't go there. They're like, they're showing things all over the news, and I get there and it's like no issues. I mean, listen, everywhere you go, there's going to have issues. You just got to be smart and stay away from them. And I'll talk to people over there. I'd be like, hey man, back in the United States, like, they're saying all this stuff about this and this and this. And they're like, yeah, that's not that's Western television. That's fake news. That's they're doing it to get a trigger out of you. It's like, we can't stand that because it's hurting our economy. No one wants to come visit our beautiful country. And there'll be times I'll be out there for 2 weeks and I don't see anything, traveling all around. And it just to get the news is not to inform you. It's to create an emotional response from you. Yeah. And I know this because I learned this about maybe like 12 years ago. I was dating a woman who's a news reporter. And she would come home and she'd be like so frustrated. She'd be like, it's like I had to do like 30 takes because they want me to cry while interviewing this person, or they want me to exacerbate this story and not give all the facts and just keep a little bit of the facts. And it was just like she had to get out of it. It was such a stressful job. You're not there to inform. She was like, I'm an actress. They want me to be an actress. And I'm like, so that's that.
It is, bro. There it is. Like they want you to and again, this contributes to the stories. It contributes to the stories. That part I was just talking about, the storyteller. I'm gonna listen, people. Be free of fooling yourself that no news stations and television programming is not trying to manipulate your ass. Move you to shit. That in itself can cause a stress because right up in here in your gut, in your spirit, your Dharma's like, you got to go this way. And like you said before, if your Dharma's like, you got to go this way, and you're like, no, I'm going this way. Oh, shit, there's a freaking.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember I was reading a book, and the guy's was a famous psychologist, this Ken Wilber. And he was saying that 99% of people are brainwashed, meaning that it's very easily to control them. And one of the reasons it's easily to control these people is because they're not living their Dharma. They're not living their unique life that they're supposed to. They're just kind of like on this like conveyor belt and just kind of going through the process. And you have all these mundane, you're just basically like almost like in a hypnotic state that anything that comes into your brain, you're just going to take as the truth. Yep. So my biggest thing would be like, try to live your life in your most unique ways you possibly can. Express your creativity. eat clean food, turn off the news, surround yourself with good people, drink clean water, get to bed before 10, wake up at 6 or 5 or 6, and get shit done. Work on yourself. Work on yourself.
Yeah, listen, it's so easy.
Yeah, it's so hard.
So challenging for cats, bro.
Yeah. But it's good. You got to take responsibility for yourself. People don't like to take responsibility yourself. It's hard to take responsibility for yourself when you're sick. You want other people to take care of you, or you want other people to feel sorry for you. You're not empowering yourself.
And that's what it is, man. I think, like, so when you asked before about like, what do I do to manage my stress, to me, it's empower myself.
Yeah.
Because when I look at what I'll do, right? Like, there's, and it, like, I don't even know if it's called meditation, but for me in the practices of Hermeticism, it's thought discipline, bro.
Yeah.
Like, what am I gonna choose to spend my energy and time and attention on?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm spending it on foolishness, and I did this as a practice, right? When some stuff was going on recently with family, I took it as like, okay, where are my thoughts right now? Because it's now with how I've developed my practices and parts work, I can be the observer rather than the participant now. So if I'm like all bubbled up and I'm like, I can be like, okay, hold up. What's really going on? Okay, I'm pissed at this. Very similar to what happened before the call. I was all cranky pants, right? Because of like something. And then I was like, oh, you know what? It's not even this. It's just what's going on in the world and the service and blah, 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 blah. I was able to, in the moment, to be like, yo, it's not even just about that. It's about, oh, bing, 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 bing. Why am I doing that? Because I want to know where I'm going so I can curtail that thought if it's out of alignment with where I want to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And when stressful things come up, you always learn two things. You learn the root cause of why that stressed you out, and it's not the superficial stress that happened or the acute stress that happened. It's some kind of repressed stress. And then the second thing you learned is how to fix it. So you're learning two different things every time. Me, I'm a learner. I love to learn. I'll always be a student of the universe. So when stressful things happen, yeah, we talk about give myself a 10-second pity party. Then I'm like, all right, I'm about to learn two new things today. All right, why did this happen? Why do I feel this? Like, what's the real reason I exploded on this person, or I just got aggravated with this, or what? Then now, how do I work on this? So maybe I'll do a video like how to deal with anger or how to deal with stupid things, and I'm like, oh, that's a cool technique. That's a cool technique. Now I'm learning, and I'm also focusing my attention on learning instead of sitting there in the shitty thoughts about being angry for something that was so stupid.
Makes no sense. No, I agree with you. And I apologize for saying it doesn't make sense because in the moment it did, and then you figured out it didn't.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, oh, wait, junk. I get it, man. Brother, it's really interesting. It's really is a rewire.
It is.
It's true, and like I want to give props because I know we're coming up on an hour, but I want to give props to the One Research Foundation. And I really just to give a heads up, like as far as what this there's the neuro emotional technique, which is a psychosomatic somatic psychic stress reduction intervention aimed at emotional and physical health improvement. What? Yes. So basically, it's a rewire.
Yeah.
What are the ways that I rewire that emotion or that experience? It's wild because in shamanism they have something called the soul retrieval, and it's in times in the soul retrieval, it's really going back to a part of our life or this part, like how I've heard it described to me and like how I've described to others. Is like when we have an experience, a part of our spirit gets splintered off and is like left in the experience. Which, if we think about our brain function, it's like, especially what I was saying before and how they said in the documentary, the memories get stored in all crazy places. So a splinter from that experience gets lodged somewhere with an emotion, right? In the soul retrieval, we're going back to that experience. We're collecting that splint. And now we're like, okay, let's look at this situation again. Is this really what happened? What else do you see? Oh, Chuck, I see. All right, cool. Now, let's capture that and come back with me. You got a safe place with me, right? That's the rewire, because, okay, we do that, but now the rewiring is an integration, because there's going to be part, and this in itself, people, can be stressful, okay? And you mentioned the acute stress versus complex stress. Like, I like that you said that, right? Because it could be a stress that's like, oh, this is really stressing me out, or the stress of like, ooh, this is different.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Like when you're kind of talking about, like, shamanism. When I did DMT the first time, dimethyltryptophan.
Yeah.
And when I went under, it lasted about like 10 minutes. I had a death of an ego, and it basically brought up all my insecurities, like everything that I thought of myself. It kind of came to this thing, and it was one of the scariest things I've ever seen, because it was all like right in front of my face. And I just remember just being like, people were telling me, just kind of let it go, to accept everything. Don't fight it. Just accept everything. So I was like, all right. I literally thought I was dying. Like, I thought, it's like, oh, this is it. See you in the next round, guys. And then all of a sudden, like, I just see everything kind of like dissipate away. And I remember coming out of it, and I was just, the euphoria, the relief. I was laughing because I just realized everything that you think of in life is an absolute joke, negative emotions. Let me emphasize that. Like, whatever, like, stress that you think is happening in your life, it's an absolute joke on the big picture. So a lot of times when I get stressed out about something, I try to shut the ego off. I try to shut the logic off, and I just kind of just feel. You know what I mean? Just kind of sit in peace and just kind of like feel. And I kind of quiet the mind a little bit. And then let my intuition kind of like, all right, without using the ego, what do I feel? What's a thought that's coming that I can work to get out of this situation? I mean, if you could quiet the mind, it takes a long time. It takes a long time, because because you're working on your intuition, and a lot of people, they don't feel that it's always there, but a lot of people don't feel it because they have too much chatter in their mind. Like the last episode, a lot of chatter, a lot of ego in their mind, and they're always trying to fix things really quick in a logical way. But it's tough to get any what's the word I'm looking for? Any kind of headway thinking logical, because we live in an illogical universe. That might go over the head with some people out there, but it's everything is perfect, but it's hard to see.
Yeah. Bruh. Man, I'm so happy you brought this up before we wrapped up, because like that's one of the reasons I like medicines, man, and medicine journeys. Like, and I'm a 5 MEOD fan, bro. Hello, nurse. And what you just said, bro, that ego, bro. I was like, for old Sanford something, I'm coming to see you, Elizabeth. I'm coming to see you, right? I'm about to die, but like, let me tell you, letting go of all that stuff is worth it when you get to the other side.
Yeah.
Because it is listen, and I think this is part of a stressor that they really didn't get into. And I'm curious about this technique. I want to learn more. I'm going to learn more about this, or I intend on learning more about this. Probably even getting certified, because I think it's something that's up my alley. Is that this? Oh man, I lost my train of thought. Whatever. But yeah, just like that experience of losing the ego, and then just accepting the bliss. Like, there's stress in the rewire, and it's worth it, bro, because there is an uncertainty that we have that's part of life, bro.
Well, it's the whole yin yang, right? Like, no matter what you're feeling, just say something so terrible happens, the only reason that terribleness happens, or you feel that terribleness, is because there's something on the opposite side that's just pure bliss that equals that energy.
Right.
So vice versa. So it's like understanding that. Like anytime something bad happened to me in my life, it always made something. Something always equally as amazing always came out of it. Every single. And you just got that's when you got to kind of like quiet the ego, quiet the mind, trust the soul, trust the intuition, trust the path that you're on, and take it as what did you learn out of it, and what can you learn moving forward, or what can you educate yourself on moving forward. It's all about the process, man. It's all about the evolution.
It's all about the process. And listen, as we wrap up here, part of the process for you to manage your damn stress is to learn more about yourself. Where is that stress coming from? How do you manage it? Because stress isn't always a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing. Like if you're gonna use weight training or working out as your mode of stress reduction, please understand, like, you will put your body under stress for it to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So as I say that about the body, I want you also to think about that with your mind. If you put your mind under the stress of growth, learning, development, that stress will be worth it, damn it. Yes. And that's all I got to say. Be anything else, man, before we...
No, I think, list your top 3 to 5 most stressful situations that you've ever experienced, and a lot of your triggers this day are coming from those. I think that's a good foundation to start with, and work off that. Meditate on them, and notice that those stressful situations, yin yang. There's something beautiful on the other end.
Hey,
trust the process.
Trust the process.
Been there. You gotta rewire that brain.
We've been there. And you know what's also good, people, is that, like, within from the time you're seeing this, within several months, you're going to have a tool that you can use, that we're going to talk more about stress, among other things that we've covered, that More Than Black and White Health podcast. You're going to have a tool to read through and, like, kind of talk as we talk about some of these things. Then we'll also have tips in there as how do you manage it. And then even further along the road, we're going to have masterminds. So, like, as you're navigating this, if you're like, oh, man, Paul, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I need some help. Great. Come on. We got you. Come on. Grab our hand. Come on the mastermind. And we're going to freaking be on you like rain dance to get you to where you want to get to. All right. Actually, to help you tap into your own self to get there. Right, B?
Absolutely, my man. Absolutely.
Yay. All right, party people, listen. Yeah, as Brian said, write down some of those things about your stress, and then write down also what resonated most with you. And until next time, we appreciate you. Thanks for coming. Please share, share, subscribe. Come on now. All right, and we'll see you soon. Peace.